Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Kat and I'm still reading The Cyborg Tinkerer by Meg LaTorre. Let's get into chapters 7 and 8. Gwen and Aurora are at the ball. Gwen has just danced with Bastion and is now trying to find Aurora again. Gwen is still miffed that Bastion offered to protect her from something. She doesn't even know what from yet. But of course she's not a fan. Gwen reminds us that she hates wearing this corset because, well, squeezing through a crowd looking for Aurora, the cage of her dress pressed in on her. I'm not sure why she couldn't just go out in like men's clothes. Like she could have gone there in like trousers and a dress jacket if she really wanted, couldn't she? I mean, she didn't have any of those things, but I'm sure she could have asked somebody else about it. We get a hint of jealousy from Aurora, so Aurora finally finds Gwen because Gwen seems to be inept at finding anybody in the crowd. But I've been looking all over for you. I couldn't find you after. Her voice trailed off, and then in Gwen's thoughts, after I danced with Bastion Kabir. She just danced with her boss. Like, if your boss comes up and asks for a dance, it's kind of tricky to say no, so this doesn't mean anything. Not in any context, but, you know. But then we get a glimpse of something that is actually nice about Gwen. She starts ruffling her own hair, then remembers how much time Aurora spent making it pretty, and actually pulls her hand out. It's like, oh no, I shouldn't mess this up. Can you stop trying to eat the cables, please? Thank you. Yeah, so Gwen can actually be thoughtful at times. Like, this is not for chewing. My headphone cables are not for clawing or biting. We get more info on why things seem out of order. There's no food or wine, and Aurora complains that she knew the circus was poor, but she didn't know it was that bad, like to have a ball without any refreshments whatsoever. Cleo, how often do we have to have this conversation? No clawing my cables. To be fair, it is her dinner time. Yeah, so Aurora calls it the weirdest ball ever, and it seems a strange concept to have a ball in the first place to me anyway, so, you know, why not have the weirdest ball ever while you're at it? But it also implies that they usually have balls where there are refreshments. But then she tells you that she's only heard from rumors that the circus used to have quite nice balls. We quickly leave that behind and Aurora and Gwen go off to dance together. Gwen makes it fairly obvious that she's not a good dancer, and in the chapter before she kept stepping on Bastion's feet while they were dancing. You're just like, yeah, you know, step harder on those feet, really. But now she's actually worried that she might trample on Aurora's feet as well. And she's wearing slippers, not shoes, so Gwen actually feels bad about that. It's quite a nice touch, to be honest. Apparently there are very strict patterns for dancing. So it is really like we went backwards in time and you have, well, not line dancing, but something like line dancing just with ball gowns going on where you actually have to know the steps. Or you're completely lost, and obviously Gwen doesn't know these steps, or maybe doesn't remember them. She says that she's not used to this kind of dancing, and they dance different things on her side of the galaxy back when she was a noble and had stuff, or had property, whatever. But if Gwen tells you that she's no dancer, and this is like an organized pattern for every dance move, then I don't see how she would possibly have a chance to keep up. This is as if you walked into a dance room and everybody knew their like K-pop dance video routine. You're just like, yeah, I can follow this. I'm quick enough for this. If you're a proper dancer, then maybe, but the way Gwen describes herself, she is not, so I don't see how she could possibly do that. The attraction between Gwen and Aurora grows, and Gwen makes a very weird assumption. So Gwen is uncertain about the dance, obviously, and Aurora just tells her, trust me. Hesitating, she thought of all the implications those two small words possessed. Trusting someone with her hair and dress led to trusting them in a dance, which could then lead to a twist beneath the sheets. First off, you're just dancing. Calm down, Gwen. This is, the next step from dancing in a public space is not bowling. Second, trusting somebody and sleeping with them are two different things. I mean, okay, you trust them far enough and it's like, okay, they're not gonna murder me. But that's about it. Actually trusting somebody is a completely different thing still. But yeah, Gwen just jumps a few steps there. Then I'm slightly confused about what kind of dance they're pulling off. Because apparently it started out with not touching the other person at all, and now Gwen is relaxing some of the tension in her shoulders and allows Roar to move them through the dance. Their hands and bodies scandalously touching, unlike the other dancers on the floor. Just before, when you danced with Bastian, it was like super tight and you were pressed together closely enough for you to feel his body heat through your dress and his clothes. So I'm not sure how whatever she's dancing with Roar now, where Roar's hand is on her shoulder, is scandalous in comparison. That seems a bit illogical to me. Gwen pulls out all the stops. In this case, cheese. They talk about what they've known of the Cyborg Circus before they actually got there. And Gwen says, but I did hear of the infamous ringleader who could bend cyborg beasts to his will, magicians who could pluck your soul straight from your chest, fire breathers who need no torch. She looked straight into Roar's brown eyes then, acrobats who could tumble into your heart. Oof. Gwen, oof. Well, but it works on Roar, so everything's good. And the next bit, they're actually slow dancing together now. And Roar pulls Gwen so close that Roar's breasts press into Gwen's waist. I'm like, the size difference there must be quite big. I tried this with my boyfriend who's almost 2 meters tall and I'm average height at like 160, 165, whatever, average height, and I can't put my chest to his waist without crouching. Which means that even if Gwen is 2 meters tall, Roar is at best 150 centimeters tall. It seems like quite a difference. Also, more importantly, let's just say the height difference is this big. That positioning would also mean that when Roar presses in tight, she would press her face into Gwen's boobs. I mean, it's a way to dance, Now, I'm not sure whether this is just using the wrong word or whether it's done on purpose for Roar. So far as I can count, there have been less than 10 recruits since the cyber prohibition law was put in place. The word you're looking for there, Roar, is fewer, because you can actually count these 10 people, but again, because this is commonly used incorrectly, it might also just be, okay, this is how Roar talks, which would still make sense. Yeah, but we learned that the circus had 10 new recruits since the prohibition law was put in place. And Gwen rightfully asks, how had the circus known for flaunting its cyborg performers gone unnoticed after making 10 new cyborgs? That is a good question. We do not get an answer as yet, which is fair enough, but at least Gwen is asking some questions that have a right to be asked. Roar talks a bit about her background and where she used to be an acrobat before she broke her wrist, and was told that because the limited surgeries options didn't allow for fixing it properly, she would never perform again, which is why she joined the Cyborg Circus. But when Roar talks about the school that she used to go to, Gwen blanches and is like, oh my god, Roar is a fucking lady, but she also attended one of the union's best all-girls boarding schools, and I was like, good thing that Gwen knows so much about the school system, like in the whole galaxy or whatever, because she doesn't strike me as a person who cares an awful lot. But clearly the right school, or the name of the right school, has at least an impression on her. I don't know why she cares, but she does. And then we learn that because Roar couldn't perform after her accident, her parents found her husband and tried to just sent her to the country to marry some lord. And I'm like, wow. I mean, we venture into space, but clearly we've regressed as a society, haven't we? And then Roar lets you in on the fact that while she doesn't remember much about her parents, she still remembers the feelings of like resentment, anger, and so forth. And once again, I have to question, why do you keep forgetting things about your past once you've turned into a cyborg? The forgetting is actually a thing. It gets a capital letter and everything, but I still don't know why it's happening. And then when Rora talks about the lord that her parents wanted her to marry to, this just makes me this just made me cringe. Like, I wasn't about to go quietly to the country and have some man I met once at a gala fill my belly with his seed. Like, ugh, at the image and ugh, at the expression as well. It seems very out of context. Like, this seems very old-fashioned. Like, oh my god, I can't say impregnate or I can't use certain words, but then Roa doesn't speak this way anywhere else. So it seems really weird. And once again, we regressed as a society. Good stuff. We learn a bit more about what happened to Gwen's family, because when her parents decided not to support the Emperor, he came back around after his inauguration and after his armies had won whatever fight they were actually fighting, because I don't think they were going up against cyborgs in that instance, but I don't know what they were fighting about yet. When he came back, he disowned her whole family, stripped them of lands and titles, and put their whole household to the sword. So they murdered everybody, like all servants, butlers, and whatnot, but they left the nobles themselves alive. I don't know whether the emperor just counted on them dying in the street because they were left with no money and no estate, but grandparents just managed to work their way up to have their own company again. So they seem to be doing okay. But yeah, it doesn't make much sense to me to just kill the household staff. If you want to punish these guys, then why not kill those nobles as well, instead of leaving people who might have connections as enemies, just roaming freely? Should have consulted with Tywin Lannister. Laura and Gwen are so close to kissing when they get rudely interrupted by guardsmen blocking the doors again. Yeah, and people being locked in. I did have to wonder whether it would be just as unimportant as it was last time when they were locked into the room just for like a town hall meeting where nothing exciting really happened that warranted them being locked in. But yeah, it's a bit more fitting this time. Little side note, the mistress comes onto the stage to talk about the competition that will now happen, because only 10 acts can go to the Emperor, and the circus is so poor they need to root out some people and get rid of some performers. And obviously you can't just pick people that you know are good. No, you have to do a competition and go to Takeshi's castle with high stakes on your employees. But the mistress also makes me think that she may have been created with Missy, aka the Master from Doctor Who, in mind, except she doesn't get enough time on the page to actually develop as much character, or nearly as much character, so she's just this cold, aloof person in the back that's pretty flat for the moment. Then she tells them, before we have our announcement, will our circus staff in attendance please join me on stage? But aren't they all employed by the circus? Like, who is staff, and is this literally just the split between are you a performer or are you doing other things for the circus? I don't know, I would be a bit confused being addressed this way. But Gwen has to make her way to the stage now, and she doesn't know what's happening, and she's like, why are we doing this? Is this why Bastian wanted to protect me from something? Well, the mistress puts forth the conditions for the competition. and that anybody who fails would get terminated. And Gwen is just like, wow, you're telling people you might fire them at a ball? That's fucking rude. But then the reactions from the audience do tell her that there's probably more at stake here, because people would have to give up their cyborg implants. And that would either leave you crippled or possibly dead, depending on how the implant works for you. Like Gwen, for instance, would likely die if they take it away from her again. For now, this whole competition seems a bit random and sounds a bit convoluted for whatever they're trying to achieve, but you know, maybe the mistress just has too much time at her hands, and this is how she rolls with that. I don't know. We get to witness a murder right at the stage as well, because somebody who complains that they can't do this gets their head bashed in. You're like, yeah, wow, that's how you set the mood at a ball. But apparently the people who do not manage to win, but who do okay in the competition, will be taken care of, as in the mistress will get them work somewhere. You're like, yeah, you just killed one of your performers. I'm not sure I buy that, but yeah, you promise work to people, sure. Gwen tries to find Rora in the crowd, and when she finally does, she doesn't like what she sees in Rora's eyes, because Rora seems to think that Gwen knew this was going to happen. Well, I think Gwen made it rather clear that she's clueless, like all around. So, yeah, but I'm sure there will be some drama about this until Gwen can explain. I had no idea what the fuck was going on. She tries to go after Rora, but Bastion interferes and tells her it's too late. But the whole circus staff is exempt from this competition, so Gwen doesn't have to partake in it. Which then makes me wonder, why was Bastion so intent on telling her that he would protect her? From what? If she doesn't have to participate, then what does she need protection from in this? So in chapter 8, we skip back to Rora, who does feel betrayed by Gwen, because she says, oh, Gwen knew. Gwen had known. And then, like, 3 sentences later, she's like, had she known about the competition all along? Can you make up your mind, Rora? Do you feel betrayed, or are you just confused? Because sometimes it's not quite clear for her. Anyway, Rora's feelings are hurt, and she is being herded into the next room where they will start this competition. So all the performers are bunched in to this room, and somebody else, like the stage designer or something, explains the rules again. For now, it seems to be a race that is based on agility, where they have to climb up a rope and then go through an obstacle course, it seems. Yeah, this guy actually tells them it's like only the 10 best acts get to go to the Emperor, but the rest of you will still work for the circus if you do well enough in this competition. You're just over here like, who would want to work for you after this competition, full stop, whether they are the top 10 acts or just the okay acts? Yeah, I feel like after this competition, anybody who survived it and who didn't get to go to the Emperor will just take their chances and run off, because why would you stay with this circus if this is what they do to you? Rora contemplates whether she wants to really compete and how, because she looks around the room and tries to discern who could even live without their implants, because she herself would be fine. She wouldn't be able to do acrobat acts anymore, and her 2 friends would probably be okay-ish as well, but they would still be crippled after and then have trouble finding work. Like her friend Akio would lose both his feet or ankles, and yeah, it's not great. It's not great for any of the cyborgs, but at least having their implants removed wouldn't mean instant death to these guys. But Rora really wants to perform for the Emperor to secure patronage. That seems to be her one goal in life, because she mentioned it a couple of times before as well, towards Gwen as well. Rora and her friend Mazana get undressed in the middle of all these people because, well, you can hardly climb a wall in a ball gown, can you? Which also seems silly. If you want these people to compete in something, then why would you give them such a disadvantage straight out the gate? We meet a guy from Rora's first chapter again who insulted her for skipping the queue. He's also the guy who came on to Gwen. And Rora competes against him because they do it in like groups of 10 for the first 50 people. And he greets her with "Hello, Dyke." Remember, if you write an asshole or a villain of any kind, they also need to be homophobic. They can't be dicks for any other reason. Apparently he took it very hard that Rora wasn't interested in sleeping with him. And yeah, his ego still apparently can't take that at all. I don't think I really needed this for the villain on top of all the other creepy stuff he's already done. We already know he's a dick, but people can be supportive of the queer community and still be dicks. You can be both things at the same time, and not every asshole is automatically homophobic as well, but it had to be done for this guy apparently. So the host of undressed performers, or performers in their undergarments or dress pants, get ready to climb this rope up the wall without any warm-up whatsoever. Rora is doing her best to do some stretching and warming up on the spot, like 5 seconds before the starts. I was like, yeah, this is very professional. You want your acrobats to do something, but you give them no chance to warm up. That makes perfect sense. I mean, it makes as much sense as this competition, full stop, but yeah, it's not great for them. On top of all of the other stuff. Because Rora is short, she doesn't make it to the wall first and then has to struggle against a lot of people who are stronger and taller than her. And she gets up this wall last. Shame, really. And the next bit of the obstacle course is swimming through ice water and under the next wall, which seems to be rather horrendous for cyborgs. Apparently older implants are not waterproof and could either lock up or actually give you electric shocks when you go into water. So some of the cyborgs might just die going into this water already without going any further in this course. Rora does wonder where the mistress had gotten ice, because it seems to be hard to come by. Which again makes me really wonder about what technology looks like in this day and age, because they advanced space travel so much that they can go into space on sail ships and just go from planet to planet, but they can't have freezers. So they can't have like ice made in the town. They have to get it at the mountain. This makes very little sense to me. But yeah, this chapter ends with Rora jumping into the ice water, hoping for the best for her implant, I suppose. I mean, her implant should only be 2 to 3 years old, but that's when she got it, not when it was created. So she doesn't know what will happen when she jumps into this ice water, but off she goes. Yeah, I would say the pacing has picked up at least, because we're now at the start of the competition and not just prancing around balls that seem to make no sense. Yeah, the world building and the competition in particular leave me with quite a few questions still. But some of them might still be answered, so I'll see what the story will reveal in later chapters. Let me know if you've read the book and what you make of it. I would say that if I wasn't reading this for a read-along or a review, and if I was just in it for fun and I would just read over things that make no sense in the moment, then I probably wouldn't mind this book so much. For now, I mean, I would still find the romance aspect and the random swearing off-putting, but But I will say I have read worse books in my life. I don't remember many of them, but you know, they don't deserve to be remembered either, so. But they exist. Like and subscribe if you want to help this channel out, and I'll be back next week with another video. Bye guys!